Very much for the invitation, first of all, and it's exciting to be part of this amazing panel. Indeed, that's a really good question to start with, Eric. I think my look at the situation is that, first of all, whether Baku is practicing coercive diplomacy, which I used to think to be the case, but I do think that conflict is the strategy for Baku for some of the reasons that you mentioned. And I think the interests of the Aliyev regime are quite different, which are private interests, are quite different from the public interests of the Azerbaijani people. In terms of the short-term, if we do treat this as a coercive diplomacy does have declining value over time. And I do think that the attack on Armenia's border was an overreach, because with types of coercive diplomacy, it galvanized countervailing coalitions, which Armenia actually is in the process of developing. At the same time, it's important to look at Armenia-Azerbaijan relationship as a rivalry. And that concept is actually is a subject of extensive scholarship in political science. And looking at that scholarship and looking at similar cases, at least one study points out that from 1966 to 1999, rivalries in similar cases where the threat is short-term and immediate. Unfortunately, the accommodation is the most frequently used strategy. But accommodation of latent rivals, not the direct rivals, is the more frequently used strategy, which allows the country to coalesce and concentrate resources on the primary target. And we saw Armenia doing this, trying to engage with Turkey, hoping to ease that relationship in order to concentrate on Azerbaijan, but we know that has not been moving significantly. That's in the short term, but also the sanction regime, Azerbaijan, we should remember, is a weak state internally, which makes it dangerous. Where there's a declining oil capacity, personalized power, it is an unreformed state, and again, as a weak state, it makes Azerbaijan quite dangerous. The sanction regime attack, the threat of sanction regime actually, I think, is the short-term, the most important component. And the sanction scholarship does demonstrate that actually the threat of sanctions on its own is significant to alter behavior. In terms of more long-term, zooming out, I would actually argue that Armenia, to manage this issue, to manage this rivalry, does need to deepen, diversify, and divide. To diversify its global relationships, a Eurasian frame is the way to look at this. The logic of Eurasian connectivity is shifting. The weakening Russia is resulting in Russia losing leverage over Eurasian connectivity, but it also opens up opportunities for the Eurasian connectivity in the southern beltway. China still needs to connect with Europe. So that connectivity is crucial for Armenia, as well as all small states, to think about and to catalyze on. Studies do show that small states are emerging as important catalysts of Eurasian connectivity. So also I will conclude here, the deepening regional diplomacy in the South Caucasus. Armenia needs to be an active producer of regional security order from below. And in this respect, I think we're moving into an age where expecting stable security to trickle down from the top, from great powers, is unrealistic. On the contrary, great power rivalry is creating uncertainties and instabilities, and building regional order for small states is one way to, in the long term, to look at this issue from the bottom up.